I know what I'm talking about speech delay issues, and that's why I'm very interested in what Weronika from Multicultural Motherhood has to say and what she's offering right now, which is an amazing class that is geared towards helping parents around the world to identify issues with the speech of their children, and also empower themselves and get the knowledge themselves, a professional help, of course, to help their children in this journey. So we're gonna invite Weronika in. Hello.
Hello, nice to see you again.
The same. I wanted to greet you back to Mama Tortuga audience, and I wanted to ask, how was your Eid celebration?
Yeah, it was really good, thank you. We just celebrated on Tuesday after a month of Ramadan, month of fasting. So yeah, it was really good celebrations. Everyone's really happy that Ramadan is over. Even though it's a really special month for us, it takes a lot out of you, I think. So it's really good that it's over, and we had our celebrations, which was really fun.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're sharing this with us, because I was following several accounts on my Instagram of mothers like yourself, like they were kind of like putting so much intention in their daily lives, and keeping up their traditions and the Ramadan and the spiritual sense for spiritual teaching for their children. And I find it so wonderful that it all culminates with this celebration of Eid, in which you get together with your family and do this, like self acknowledgement of, how hard it is to interrupt the quotidianity every day in this beautiful intention. So thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm happy to share. I mean, I just want to raise awareness of different faiths and multiculturalism. And I think it's really important to, make people more tolerant, really, of different religions and different cultures.
Yes, and it's not even, I have to say, I will go even a further step in about like not being only tolerable about it, but can I learn from each other? Because I
Yeah,
believe that there's
absolutely.
so much to learn from your faith, and I feel like we're still getting into kind of like getting to know a little bit more about it. So thank you so much about that, and thank you so much for taking time today to share with us again. Sadly, last time it wasn't safe, and I wanted to put it, upload it in our website, mamatortuga.org, and we lost it. I don't know what happened. Instagram had a glitch, so I was really sad because we really tried last time. But I was sharing in a little bit clip before this with the audience that I have a son who's a 9-year-old right now, who has been going through a lot of issues with his speech. I was one of those moms that was blamed about the issues of the speech of my child, because they were, according to them, it was because I was speaking Spanish to him since he was a baby. And I stick to my guns and I say, no, I don't think that's the issue. And now, like, he is 9. He is able to speak 2 languages and he's fluent, but he still have issues with the way he says certain sounds, and he's still working with the speech therapist. But I was sharing with everybody that luckily we have you, Weronika, who is a professional in that field and is willing to share with parents all around the world in ways to how to help our children, empowering ourselves, but also help our children in practical ways to help them with their speech delays and their speech sounding issues.
That's really, really good. So have you found a lot of help for your son? I mean, over the years, have you managed to get a lot of therapy for him?
Yes, and actually that's another thing that I was sharing, but like we have to cut it anyway. Yeah, it took me a while because finding the right person who really understands that bilingualism or multilingualism doesn't have anything to do with the sounding of words, neither with the way brains sees, communication overall. And it took me a while to find the right person in our journey with speech. And right now he is receiving speech therapy through his school. And I can say for sure it took us a while for us to receive the help we needed. But I persevere, and I feel very happy that I did persevere, especially with the Spanish speaking at home. And I want to encourage parents that are, going through the same situation. If you guys are having like issues, like people telling you, oh, it's because you speak another language at home, I can assure you that it hasn't been proved at all. Like I asked for research at one time. I was, like, oh, so you're a professional. Can you show me the research? And there is not one research that supports that idea. And on the contrary, it shows that children that are exposed to multiple languages may have better chance to overcome their issues with speech, because they may have more outlets to kind of express themselves. And it's funny because you also have multilingual children yourself, so I'm pretty sure you know.
Yeah, well, I think it's quite common that health professionals and even some speech therapists don't know about the benefits of bilingualism, and they don't understand that actually it's not a disadvantage for a child to be bilingual, because there are in fact lots of cognitive advantages of bilingualism and lots of social advantages, and it's just brilliant. And if you can expose your child to 2 languages, or however many, 3, 4, however many you want, from an early age, before the age of about 10 months, that's when they start to learn, start to focus in on the speech sounds of their language. So I don't know whether you know, but by the age of 10 months old, children actually focus on just the speech sounds in their environment, and they are not able to distinguish between other speech sounds anymore. So it's really quite important to begin bilingualism right from the beginning, especially if you're thinking about speech sounds, because as I said, from birth, children are able to distinguish between the speech sounds of any language. So they're able to pick up any speech sounds that are in their environment. So that's really something you want to do quite early on. After the age of 10 months, they lose this ability, and then it becomes more and more difficult for them to acquire sounds later on. So if you want to raise your child bilingually, I would say you have to start from the beginning. That's the best way to start. Make sure your child is exposed to both languages, and make sure they are hearing sounds from all the languages, and that way your child will learn to focus in on those sounds and be able to pick up those sounds.
Yes, and I have to say, that's not mean to discourage parents that haven't done that yet. Because I always tell my students and the people that I tutor, it's like, it's never too late to acquire another language. It's just that the plasticity of our brain will take longer. But it's such a beautiful miracle that we have these brains that are able to adapt and able to do it. It's just that certain sounds for sure will be harder to acquire. And like, for example, we have the sound of the R in Spanish, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, how can you do that? Even my children are working in that sound, and it's something that will come by exposure. And it like the same with the R in French, like it's a sound that it's so typical of that language, and you have to acquire it. But it doesn't mean that, like, oh, it's too late if you waited later on. It just means that, you just have to be more conscientious about exposure overall. And the same with the speech issues. I mean, like, I understand. I don't have exact name for the diagnosis of my son. I'm sorry. But I understand that for him, his issue is that his brain thinks one way, and when he produces the sound, it makes the another sound. So, and I believe, like, certain minds, certain brains are just functioning in that way. And like I was saying before in the video before, every child is different. And that's one of the beauties of doing homeschooling, by the way. I know a lot of parents are choosing this path right now because of that, because you can be aware of the differences of your a specific child and help them in their own way. It's, you know, there's not one
Absolutely.
solution for all, but we can find tools that may help us to help our individual child. And for my child has been a long road, like I say. It took me years to find the right person to do his speech therapist. And luckily here in where I live in Florida in the United States, they have that as a free service. But you have to look for those services. It's not like, you know, they
Yes.
will come to you. But I understand where you are in England, it's a little bit harder. Can you let us know?
Yeah. Well, we do have the NHS, the National Health Service, and you can get free speech and language therapy through that. But the problem is these services, the funding has been cut so
Oh,
many times, and it's just very, very difficult for even the people that work there, the speech therapists that work for the NHS, to provide what actually children need. And this means that there are really long waiting lists. And if your condition is not serious enough, then you may not get the help you need if it's not seen as something which is really a critical thing to tackle. So, you know, often children who just have maybe one sound that they're struggling with, like a lisp, when they're struggling with this sound, they are probably not going to be able to get speech therapy for this because it's not seen as such an important issue. You know, there are lots of other children who probably have more complicated difficulties that need more help. So if you have just one or maybe two sounds that the child is struggling with, it's very difficult to get help. I mean, when I worked for the NHS, I would go to schools and do an assessment, and then I just have to give them, you know, a worksheet and say, here's some activities to work on, but I can't provide any speech therapy, you know, because the resources just aren't out there. But, you know, obviously these children need help and they deserve help. And, you know, if the parent is willing, then they're definitely able to learn how to do speech therapy at home. So that is what my course is going to provide. It's providing training for parents to do speech therapy at home with their children. Now, I must say that this course is just for children with speech sound difficulties. It's not for any other speech and language conditions such as stuttering or language delay. It's just for speech sounds. So if your child has a difficulty saying one sound or more than one sound, then this course is definitely for you. You are going to learn the step-by-step process of how to do speech therapy with your child at home, and you'll be able to learn lots of games and fun activities to do speech therapy. And once you know, then you know, and you can just do it as many times as you want, as often as you like, for as long as you need to.
yeah, and whenever you guys are, that's a wonderful skill to
Yeah,
have.
exactly. It's online. It's
Like if
online,
you
so anyone in the world can do this.
at the beach, if you are, you know, somewhere else, you can incorporate that knowledge in helping your child. And it's not like burdensome for kids because, you know, like some kids don't want to be in a therapy setting, but you can do it in an organic way. You can do it, you know, with materials and things and toys that you have at home that they like. So that's why, you know, I wanted to do this live again with Weronika because I want everybody, all the parents and people who are watching this to take advantage of this amazing resource. I have the link for the page for Weronika in my profile. So the only thing you need to go to that link tree and you will find it there. I have all her media and the link to her Facebook group, which is the one that she will be offering this class coming this week. It's starting
Yeah,
tomorrow.
today it started. Today.
Oh,
Well, it's
okay.
Thursday here. Are you? Is it Thursday where you are?
Yes, it is Thursday.
Yeah, so today it started, yeah. So at the
Yeah.
moment, I've uploaded all the content for the first week. So the first week, we are talking about typical speech acquisition. So I'm going through how we speak, how each speech sound is made, and also the phonological processes that children go through when they learn to speak. So when children are very young, they are not able to coordinate all of their muscles and say each speech sound correctly. And it's just because it takes a long time for children to learn this process of how to produce each sound. So by the
Mm-hmm.
age of 2, children should only be about 25 to 50% intelligible. And as they get older, they gradually get more and more intelligible until about the age of 4 or 5, when they should be about 100% intelligible. So, you know, if your child is not intelligible by the age of 4, you know that, you know, there may be a difficulty and they may need a little bit of help with their speech.
Yeah.
But also I do cover bilingualism as well in week 1 of the course. And that's really interesting topic as well. Because, you know, there are some, you know, bilingualism does have an impact on speech in some ways, because if you look at a bilingual child with a speech sound difficulty, they may look a bit different from a monolingual child with a speech sound difficulty, and that's because they've got more sounds in their repertoire of speech sounds. So, you know, we have to think about this as well. It is important to think about and factor in if your child is bilingual. But in terms of language, if we just move from talking to speech to talking about language a little bit, bilingualism does not cause a language delay. There are many children who learn it from, you know, even like 2/3 of the world, I think, know 2 or more languages, and they're acquiring those languages from birth. So, you know, actually monolinguals are, you know, the ones who are not, you know, there's way more bilinguals than monolinguals. So definitely do not worry if you're bilingual. Please do speak your mother tongue with your child. It's really, really important. And they'll just be at such an advantage if they learn it from an early age. They will be at such an advantage.
Yeah, and actually it's so great that you're mentioning this. That's something that I would love to encourage people who are working in the speech field, like, to do more of this research. You know, like, especially because the majority of the population of the world, like you say, they speak many languages, and it's funny how there's still people in this world that believes that is causing the speech delay. I was one of those parents that had a child who I was not able to understand. and it was terrible because, you know, like, he was in a park or he was somewhere else and people will always like, what did he say? And I'm the mom, like, who's supposed to know what he's saying. I was not able. Many times my daughter was kind of like the translator because she's like, oh, I think he's saying something. I'm like, oh, really? Oh, okay. You know, and it, you know, also I have to say, it also caused a lot of frustration in the child and the parent.
Absolutely.
Many times children have a lot of behavioral issues as well because it's frustrating. They're trying to say something, nobody understands you. And in their minds, they're really trying. It's just that, you know, the way the sound is coming out and the way they're producing it, because remember, there's a lot of mechanics in the mouth. Like, we make the sounds, we don't pay attention, but a lot of the connection, the brain and the tongue and the movement of the muscles had a lot to do. And my son has an issue with flaccid muscles. Right. That, you know, like, goes overboard on other issues. Like, for him, it's difficult sometimes to open a bottle, or, you know, and we had to kind of deal with that as well. But he's not severe. So that's what when you were saying, like, unless it's severe, it will be taken seriously. But it affects their everyday life. It doesn't mean that it is not, you know, there. Definitely is there, and if we can cover this, and if we can even talk hours about this issue, because I see it every day. So many parents, like, when their children are older and getting middle school, high school, and they're telling me, well, but my son is not doing well, he's frustrated. Like, why? Because a lot of these kids have never been diagnosed with, you know, different learning issues, because all of us are different, and it's fine and it's totally normal. But some kids do need that special help. Some kids do need some, you know, acknowledgement of their situation, because it's frustrating. And then many times you're telling them, well, you just have to try harder. Like, imagine that. Like, a child cannot try harder than what they're doing. Like, a child is doing what is coming to them. And, you know, I remember many times being that parent, like, being like, oh, maybe it's because you're not opening your mouth. enough, or maybe he also used to pull his saliva in the mouth a lot. Like he was one of those salivating babies all the time. And it took me a while to understand, like, okay, when he was a baby, he was all right. But, you know, like when he was getting older, I have to tell him all the time, like, swallow. Like, why are you keeping saliva in your mouth? And these little things that maybe you don't think about do make a difference in our children's everyday lives. So that's why I love having this conversation with you, and I'm very happy that you're offering these classes online, which means they're accessible for people everywhere.
Yeah. So yeah, the Clear Speech course, which is the one that we've been talking about speech therapy, that started today. And I will leave registration open for another day or two if you have seen this live and you think you want to come on and do the course. And if you are not sure whether this course is for you, then please do just send me a message and we can discuss it and see if this course is right for you. And then next month I'm running my Raising Talkers course again, and that is for children, that is for parents of children 0 to 5 years old who just want to learn how to boost their children's language skills. So that's going to be running again next month. That was really popular. I ran it in April, and that was the last time I spoke to you. We were talking about that. But yeah, I will be running that course again in July.
Oh, that's wonderful. So now, friends, you know, she's offering this amazing resource online. Feel free to reach out to her. And if you want to go and check out her links, they're all in my profile. You just need to go there and click on it and you'll get there. So thank you so much, Weronika, for your amazing gift of to our community. You are one of them.
Again.
And I'm so glad that we had the opportunity to do this again. I wish you guys have a wonderful summer, and I hope we can be in touch. And I am in that group, by the way, because I do want to learn more from you.
Yeah, and I hope you let me know what you think of the course, and let your followers know as well if you find it useful.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Weronika.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Too. Bye-bye.
Bye.